ready just a couple of weeks ago to go to an event here in town, and it just so happened that I was going to be running into some people that I had met over like 10 years ago. I hadn't seen them in 10 years. And I was a little apprehensive, but I was going to do this. And so I got ready, put on a nice outfit, did my hair, got to the point to where I looked in the mirror at home before I left, and I felt very confident with myself. And I'm like, yeah, this is who I am now. And I owned it. Walked out the door, went to the event, and the moment I walked into that store I was meeting some people at, that confidence completely evaporated. I mean, it was not a gradual thing. It was instantaneously. Like, it was a whole different person I felt like I had become in that split second. So I went from someone that felt grounded and put together to feeling like I was trespassing in this room, that I didn't belong there, I didn't fit, and I stood out. And I know it was all in my head, but I could not get my body and my mind to line up in that moment. And the strange part is, I had that exact same feeling 10 years ago with that exact same group of people. So something I had thought I had outgrown, in fact, I think had just been buried. But when I walked in, that mirror woke up inside of me. So it's not something that disappeared. It had just been laid dormant for that time being.
Well, it sounds like something I went through just this week, and I feel your pain. But welcome to Life, What Is It Good For? Today we're talking about the mirror problem, the reflection that won't die. And we're opening up here with a quote from Anais Nin, a French author. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. Implications being that we view reality through a lens. And that lens is, through that lens, we project our own image and receive that reflection back from reality. And it takes quite a mature mind to take a look at the real self, not simply the perceived self. So when we talk about a mirror, we're going into new social contexts like you described, like one I had this past week where, just 2 days ago, I hadn't seen these people in quite some time myself. And I didn't think anything about it until I got there, and I realized, man, I really, really don't belong here with this group of people. Not the group of people were fine, but I kind of found myself going back to a corner. I'm standing there. I'm very quiet. I'm certainly not energetic. I'm very conscientious of every move I make, everything that I say, because it just feels out of place. So the environment is projecting back onto me data that I'm reconfiguring as, oh my goodness, these people think I'm a loser, or these people don't like me. Well, they probably weren't even thinking about me, but it's just the way that the psyche works when it's interpreting itself in a new environment. Yeah. So here we are. What is the mirror problem? When we say mirror, we're going to discuss what this means, the internal reflection shaped by past experiences. What's this apply? How does this mean? How do we apply this to everyday life?
Well, I mean, the whole premise of this podcast is I'm showing up with questions I don't have answers to. So, all I can say for me personally is I am trying, when I have instances such as what I just referred to where I was going to the social event, I spend time internally analyzing what is triggering this for me, trying to understand the root cause. So hopefully I can rewrite that script that is inside of me that's projecting this false mirror.
Right.
So I think for each instances, we have to analyze, okay, what was in our past that might have caused this, and feel like I was able to trace it back to leaving that cocoon that we were brought up in. So when I was in our very secluded environment growing up, I did not feel this mirror projecting itself at me until I was around other people that dressed differently, that looked differently, that was more experienced, more knowledgeable. So I think that's when it started forming for me that almost a sense of inferiority,
Well,
where
it's not something that's confined to someone that's raised in a background like ours, because it's not the background. This is a common human problem where
yes, I'm
w-
just
our
I'm
per-
specifying it just for that particular instance for me.
yeah,
I'm not
okay, yeah,
saying
yeah.
that's going to be for everyone. I was giving an example of how I had this false mirror incident, and I'm trying to establish the root cause of it. And for me,
Mm,
it boils down to there was so much I was not prepared for socially. And coming from that cocooned environment, I found that I'm not well prepared and well suited for those type of social interactions.
mm,
I
mm.
was clueless what to do. I didn't feel like I was even acting right, or like it's one of those things that I have a hard time explaining unless it's something you've experienced yourself.
Have had that throughout my entire life. I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law just last week about how well she was a music major as well.
Mhm.
As artists of any caliber, whether you're an amateur person like me or you're a true professional, you're what's called locus of identity, the source from which I receive affirmation of who I am, reinforcement that I'm safe, all that is
Yeah.
extremely external because we're having to scan as artists, even in the undergraduate studies. I'm performing. How is it being received? Which gives me, it creates a feedback loop on how I feel about myself, how I perceive myself based upon what I think other people are thinking. One of the things that's been happening to me in the past year is the realization that it is none of my business what other people think of me, and
Yeah.
neither do I have the right to have the obligation to change that. My job is to be me, and that does not imply being insensitive to other people or
Sure.
being so arrogant that you can't learn where your rough edges are at, because that's how we grow. We receive those feedback from other people.
Right.
But living a life of alignment, I'm getting to know who I am and who I'm not, and purposely aligning my life with that. From that disciplined lifestyle has come for me gradually more confidence. But it does require exposure. Prime example, when I
Mm.
first met my wife, there was a restaurant at a fancy hotel. And I say fancy, it's not fancy. It's just the little one downtown Montgomery. But in my mind at that point, I had never been in anything like that. It had a big
Right.
chandelier. I said, they're going to throw me out. She wanted me to go on ahead of her while she secured the parking. And I said, I was 29, I think, 28, 29. And I was so scared to go into a place of fine dining. Well, not even fine dining. It's not fine dining. But to me, if you went to the Cracker Barrel, you're going to fine dining. I remember getting dressed up to go to the Olive Garden one day because I just never been exposed. So part of someone's angst in a new social setting may just be they have not had enough exposure. Well, nowadays, I have no problems. I can go to any fancy restaurant. I know exactly what to do. I fit in. I mean, no, I don't have that problem anymore because I've had that exposure. I've had enough opportunity to see behind the curtain of other people's pretenses because we just see the shimmer and the glam that's on the outside, particularly if we're following them on social media. We see their best and we compare it to our worst at that moment.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly running that algorithm in the background, which makes us feel like crap. Makes us feel, oh, I don't belong here. So these internal messages may have to be over time paused and replaced with something. The question is, what are we going to replace it with? And how?
Yeah.
Because we're not getting younger. We're 40 something years old and we're still dealing with these little
Right.
hiccups here that we would have definitely struggle with as 20-something-year-olds.
Right. And that's I think what really shocked me and was when I went to that event. Here I am in my 40s and I felt like, okay, a lot of time's passed. I feel like
Yeah.
I've evolved a little bit more. I've learned a little bit more. I've been exposed more to, and I think my big holdup has been fashion. I mean, growing up the way we did, and I know this, I had this conversation with mom just the other day. Fashion is something she struggled with. And so I did not have someone to teach me those things at a young age on how to dress fashionably, how to do my hair, how to do makeup, how to fit in a
I know what
classy
you're talking about.
social setting.
I know, we look
All
like
right,
we
so
rolled
here
out
I
of a secondhand.
but that's the exact feeling I felt. In that moment, I
Mhm.
walked through those doors. I felt I pulled up there in a very trashy thrift store dress. When in fact, I mean, it was a designer label. But no, I did not feel like I even felt in or fit in with that group of women. And
I
it's,
on my author's page on my social media thing I shared a quote from one of my
yeah.
books. It says, "We compare our raw, unfiltered lives to the polished perfection of others, forgetting that what we see is not their truth but their performance." And that's from the book
Mm,
The Joy of Significance.
yeah.
And so we're comparing apples with oranges at times. I don't think it ever goes away. It's built into our system, our species, to scan the horizon to see if that new person coming over the plains there is part of our tribe or not, and if I'm on the same level with them. It's archaic brain processing algorithms, but
Well,
they're
and
still
you were talking earlier about how our religion has really nothing to do with this, and you're very accurate in that because I was talking to Jeremy about this just the other night, and I'm like, okay, from you grew up in the same type of denomination we did. I asked him, I was like, do you ever feel that when you walk into a room, you sense, okay, I don't belong here, I don't fit in? He's like, I've never even thought of that. Like it doesn't
wow,
cross his mind. Like he just
wow,
he
wow.
goes in and he's just there. He's like he doesn't even stop to think about it. And I was
Well,
even asking him like about the hierarchy. Like I can walk into a room and I can tell you based on, and when I say class, I don't mean necessarily a financial bracket of people, but I can tell you the classes of people in which those we all sort of can fit
yeah,
into.
it's
And
like
he's
that
like,
saying.
"What?"
I do it
he
every
does.
all the time, all the
Okay,
time.
okay.
Well,
Jeremy didn't get this.
it's like that scene with Don Knotts and Tim Conway and the Apple Dull Gang. Remember they walk into that prison? Who's the number one cockle doodle doo around here? so, so it has to do with the way our brains are wired. Yeah, if you're like an empath, you're imagining that scene, okie
Yes,
dokie
I
there, yeah,
am.
boy.
Sorry.
Yeah. Who's the number one cockle doodle doo? It's the pecking order. We're trying to see
Yes.
who's the pecking order and can I impress them so I can be safe in this environment. And I think
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
consequence of having um our brains are more like I think what people call empaths. We simultaneously can scan the room and pick up when someone's depressed,
Yeah.
when someone's feeling something negative. Or they feel bad about themselves. We'll pick that up too. Someone like Jeremy, and I his radar's not turned on to that external intensity like yours and I, and
Right.
it's not good or bad here. There's pros and cons. Pros is he can
Yeah.
walk in there. I don't care what you think because I'm not even, how do I know that he really is embodying that idea that's none of my business what you think and it doesn't matter to me. And
Oh yeah.
I think that's very difficult for people like you and me to turn that radar off. It's always
Mm.
on, and
Yeah.
we'll internalize the negativity that's there because we're trying to anticipate that person's actions and if we're going to be safe and what do I need to do to make sure that I get the response from you that tells me that I'm safe and that I'm wanted.
Right.
It's exhausting. It
Oh yeah.
really is exhausting. I that makes me not want to leave the house. It makes
Yeah.
me not want to be around people because I can't turn that off. And it's overwhelming because not only am I trying to scan their emotions, but I'm wondering, am I being accepted? Am I fitting in? Do I look the right way? Is someone making fun of the whole works? I just go down through this list. And
Yeah.
so even at this event that I went to a few days ago, I had to tell myself, breathe, breathe. None of this is real. These fears you got going on in your head. Who cares? I just turn it off. But I'll just go into that mode of thinking automatically and not even realize I'm operating in that mode.
I was reading about a guy named Charles Horton Cooley. Hadn't heard of him before, but he was a sociologist from the early 20th century.
Okay.
And he developed this concept of the looking glass self, which is the idea that our self concept is developed through our social interactions and how we perceive others' opinions of us. And I love what
Mm.
he said here. He said, I am not who you think I am. I am not who I think I am. I am who I think you think I am. That is a mouthful, but
And
I feel like it resonates with me so much because when I take myself out of the environment that I was in a few weeks ago, I feel confident. I feel okay, that's me. That's who I think of myself. But in that environment, I am who I think they think I am. And I project that. I think that's where that mirror is coming in. I'm projecting what I think their interpretation is of me, which is this person showing up all disheveled, unfashionable, and not fitting in, doesn't belong here. That's who I see of myself
yeah,
when I go to those type of events
yeah.
with certain people.
Some of that could be built-in trauma response. Those are learned responses for
Yeah,
scanning the
I
room to
had
make sure
this
we're safe.
I had this conversation with mom just a couple of days ago because I was asking her, I said, look, I have memories, but I'm not sure if it's memories that I have made up in my mind to fit a scenario or if it's
Yeah,
actually accurate. And so I was like, I want to talk to you about this because I want to know if I'm just making this up or because I'm really digging here at the root of my problem.
yeah.
And I was like, do you recall dad being embarrassed of us? And she's like, oh yeah, all the time. He was embarrassed of how we looked as far
But
as
yeah,
me
he
and
was in
mom.
charge of how we looked.
Oh, it's all twisted. Don't, that's a whole nother topic, I think. But as at a very young age, I could pick up on the fact that we're forced into this mold to look a certain way, but yet my father, who I looked up to and wanted approval from, is finding this to be very embarrassing. But yet this
Yeah,
is who I have to be.
yeah,
And then, not to mention other people coming into our lives that were filling the role as daughter that from my perspective, I thought it was because they looked better, they're more attractive, they have a more put together look than I do, so
uh-huh,
I'm falling short there. So I
yeah,
feel like that
yeah,
that has complicated my mirror
mhm,
and how I view myself in certain situations. But the trick is, and I don't know if trick is the right word, key here. I have noticed that that mirror only seems to get triggered for me when I'm around a certain type of people. It's not around everyone. It's
mm,
not like I can go out with a couple of my girlfriends. I don't feel that.
mm,
I
yeah,
go to this other environment with these other women and it
uh,
kicks in majorly.
uh,
And I've had other occasions where I would be in a setting that was predominantly men with Jeremy, whether it was like an army event or something. I don't feel it
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
So it's
mm,
when I'm around women that exude a look that I feel that I'm falling short in, that's when that mirror
mm,
kicks in for me. And I know we're talking about
mm.
I'm
Isn't
using
it
this
inter
as an example, and it's a very superficial
Yeah,
one, but yet it's a very real deep issue for me that I've struggled with for many years.
well, it's a valid struggle. I was just making an observation of how much our identity is tied into the external, and there's a Facebook page that I follow and I find a lot of inspiration from. It's called Born Different.
Oh, okay.
And these are beautiful souls who have been given a body that is completely disfigured
Mm.
in lots of cases, or it's
Yeah.
just, and some of them, they had accidents,
Yeah.
and but most of the emphasis is being born into something that into a body that doesn't look the part. And I have found great inspiration from these people who are filled with joy, filled with happiness, and it has really made me stop to think about, well, wherein am I deriving my sense of refuge from? Where
Mm.
am I pulling my sense of peace from? And I just mentioned to my wife the other day, I think that we as a species are at a cusp, an event that's important in our development, where ex- we adopt, a new definition of success that is defined by the person who is most at peace. So someone that is just locked into true joy and peace and is not contingent on the external. Because
Okay. But how do you, I love that idea, but how do you take that concept and change your old mirrors, that old
those
script? How do you,
scripts that are there, I don't know, because I don't speak from a place of authority as much as I speak
sure,
from a
sure.
place of quest and search for being able to. Well, we have it in our own. We don't have to look very far. Our on faith background. We talk about the peace of God that passeth all understanding, and I think that that's what that meant, was a sense of contentment and joy that is uh, based on something other than what I see, hear, taste, and feel. I haven't got that down pat, but it is attractive to me, and I think I see it at times in these people who are what society would say that's undesirable, and they are filled with abundance of happiness and joy, and it seems
Mm,
real. And I've met them in person, so it's inspiring. And what I do think that that mindset has to be practiced. I don't think it's acquired over time, overnight.
sure, sure.
Like the fact that I can get up in the morning and I have both my arms and both my legs. There are
Mm,
people out there that are born with genetic disorders that don't have arms or legs, and I'm like, I don't. I'm literally. I use this analogy every once in a while. I get a paper cut. And I want to take a week off work. Because
yeah,
that's just I'm having a bad day. That that idea that I can find joy and peace in something outside the material does beg the question about one's belief in the supernatural. You don't go too
yeah.
far down that road where you're having to answer that question. But back to the mirror of the self. I drew something here that I want to share. And if any of you have sat in Psychology 101 class, you'll come across the window pane of the self. And so let me see if this will actually focus here. Don't make fun of my drawing skills. So the entirety of the self can be contained in four window panes. One, what me and others know about me. Two, what only I know. Three, what others know. And then four, what's the unknown, or in our case, from our background, what we would say that only God knows. The quest of true authenticity is where this line moves that way and this line comes down. Because if I am truly authentic with me and I'm living a life of authenticity, I don't have a lot to hide. And window pane number 2 is where we hide a lot of stuff. We don't want anyone to see. Well, this is a place where we're not being real at. We're saying,
Mm,
okay, I'm living a life over here in privately, but I'm publicly. I need you to see it this way. So this is a cause of a lot of angst. So the quest is to move this line over. As this line moves over, we're learning more about ourselves. That we'll call it the divine providence revealing to us the good and the bad and the ugly. But this horizontal line that moves down at the same time means that others are telling there's there's less that others only know there's less things that others only others know about us, let's say that correctly,
Yeah.
because we're in a place of maturity to learn from others about what they really see in us. And we put all those factors, all those pieces together, and we get a better picture of who we are as individuals. So the quest is always, how do I find out? How do I take a look at the parts of me that are hidden that I really want to work
Mm.
on to shine so that I have less to hide? How do I learn from others about the good? It's not just the bad, not constructive criticism, it's also the good. This
Yeah.
is where, one of the things I've struggled with is thinking of myself as a musician. I have a very difficult time thinking of myself as a musician because I can't do that. Go down the list of things of what I can't do. And so my pull has been from other people. Oh, I enjoy listening to you play that. So that's
Yeah.
encouraging. So, or hearing people say, "Hey, Brandon, you're good at this." I have a hard. This is the relationship between 3 and 1 is very difficult for me to have any good come from this window pane and move into the known.
Mm.
I will accept bad information coming up from here because I'm probably already believe the bad about me. Yeah. And that I have no problem with seeing that in the mirror. I have a hard
Yeah.
time seeing in the mirror anything good because I just feel like crap. And so, um that also is a form of growth where I'm okay with receiving something. I've been around people who could not tolerate any compliment because they didn't feel like they deserved it.
Mm.
So the mirror is not just about bad things, it is about good things. And it's essential because
Yeah.
if we the self definition cannot exist in a vacuum,
Right.
easily I should say. I'm running the scenario in my mind of what it would be like to be marooned on an island for 10 years by yourself. You know,
And I think a big part of my problem here is the fact that I don't have much of a social life.
oh, same
I
here.
and so I
I
don't
don't,
think my
yeah.
mirror is going to change until I put myself
Mm,
in those situations to where, like you were talking about in that window pane, if I'm not around others, then I can't receive that positive feedback, whether or negative,
mm.
whatever the case may be. So I'm never going to be able to overcome
There we go.
that mirror
Th
without.
my thing was fear blocks this window pane from shrinking because I'm afraid of you. I'm going to avoid you because I can't handle
Yeah.
the negative feedback or handle the positive feedback. My psyche just convinced that's not right.
I feel like in my case, just in reference to this event I talked of, I don't think I gave anyone a chance to correct my reflection from that mirror. I walked in, that mirror goes up in my mind. I do what I gotta do, and I'm out of there. Before I
Yeah.
give anyone a chance to even override that interpretation that I'm getting from this mirror.
Mm. The human brain, isn't it interesting? I actually have
Mm.
another quote. Can I, my little
Oh yeah.
plug here? This is from my novel, The Secrets of a Pastor's Son. It's called. I had a little quote from one of the characters. The human mind was so brilliant, but so broken,
Mm.
very fragile.
Yeah.
We can actually, we're so brilliant in our own self demise and destruction
Yes.
that we can worry about worrying.
But
We
in the
can
moment,
make
it
up
feels so
problems.
legit. It doesn't feel like I'm manufacturing something. It
No.
feels very real in that moment.
Well,
To the
this
point.
is a little funny. I just had a phone conversation with her mother last night, and if
Okay.
anybody knows mother, they're gonna appreciate this conversation. I'm not making fun of mom, but we both had a good laugh. I said, "Mom, what y'all doing?" Her and Daryl going out to eat at
Hmm.
a place, and she named the place, and she said, "We're going out to eat for his birthday. You meeting some of his family." I said, "Okay." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Where's that at again?" I said, "I thought I got nowhere." She said, "Oh yeah, remember you went with me and Daryl and and Nana to there. You rode with us." I was like, "What are you talking about, Mom?" "Yeah, you met me at our house. You met us at Nana's house, and you rode with me and Daryl and Jean, and we went over there, and then Daryl had to park the car outside." I said, "Mom, I have met Daryl 5 times. I have never been in the vehicle with Daryl, much less gone over there to the Hickory Chip at the outskirts of Clanton, Alabama. I have never been." She goes, "Yeah, you were there. You sat right beside me." I said, "Where's Daryl?" "He's right here. He's driving." I said, "Will you ask Daryl if he remembers that?" She goes, He doesn't remember it either. Mama, did you dream this? Just, I may have
That
dreamed
sounds
it.
like something I would have
That
done.
sounds like something I would do. So, can you imagine having a memory that you thought was so real? Fortunately, it was nothing bad, but maybe it happened to be a negative memory, and you had a problem with someone because you thought they did
Oh,
something to you, but it was a dream that you had.
Jeremy can contest to this. This has happened more
Uh-oh.
than one occasion with us. I will
Oh, boy.
have intense dreams, and I'm so convinced that it's real. I didn't know it wasn't. And I would be so upset at him. He's like, "What did I do?" And I would tell him, and he's like, "I didn't do any of that." And after a long discussion, we realized, okay, and we now have a saying. Jeremy's like, "Well, Dream Jeremy screwed me again because I have dreamed something that has got me all mad at him," which I should know by now. None of that is even remotely close to anything Jeremy would do or say. But yes, it can be very real, and it just goes to show how difficult or how the tricks our mind can play on us and determining reality from fiction.
Well, there we go. Let's put that thought into the context of the meeting you had, the meeting I had. All of that worry and all that fear, was that based on reality? Or is that based on something that our brains are making up?
Well,
No one was
for
letting me
me,
on the outside.
in some ways, for me, I think it's part reality, just due to the fact that it's in issues that I have struggled with since childhood because of things that were said to me, things that I legitimately interpreted from our father through his
Okay.
actions. And so,
Okay.
yes, I feel like in some way it is real.
Mm,
It's just not something I've been able to overcome and gain my confidence because
mm.
I felt like everything was not good enough or it was
Yep.
embarrassing. And Jeremy can even tell you this, like going into an event with Jeremy, I'm constantly worried I'm going to embarrass him because I know for a fact that was a dynamic issue within our parents' relationship. And
Oh, hang on just a minute. Hang on just a minute. I do the same thing with Najia. Wow. I sure do. I've actually said that not too long ago. I don't want to embarrass you. And she says, "You're not going to embarrass me." I said, "Well, you never know." I'm not surprised. Well, there's a lot of layers here. It's almost like you and I need to be a case study of the unhealthy development of the inner psyche, perception of the self, because the similarities that we have with those struggles have to be attributed to some type of cause and
yeah.
but
Well, I think there are basically all of this sort of can go under the umbrella of imposter syndrome to some degree, but I think
oh yeah.
there are different types of imposter syndrome, and I was trying to do a little self-analysis of for my own purpose, and I feel like there's a category for perfectionist. I don't know where it stems from, but
Mm.
I feel that if I remember as a child, we had a Nintendo game. And the second I made any mistake, I would shut that whole thing down, reboot it, and start from the beginning. I struggled with the lack of perfection. Don't know why, don't know where that one came from, but it is something that has popped up time and time again. And to the point that, like, just a couple of weeks ago, I was cooking dinner. A meal that I have cooked many times before turned out perfect. I was making mistakes right and left. And in that moment, mirror pops up. Failure. You are a huge failure.
So I did the exact same thing last week. I was fixing supper for her, and it was multiple things were just going wrong. And I remember saying to myself, why can't I do anything right? I burnt spaghetti. How do you burn spaghetti? Like I wasn't even mixing them in. I was just boiling the noodles, and I burnt this. I mean, I don't know how I did that. I've done that. I've cooked that meal a gazillion times, and I was like, I can't do anything right. I just there are times in my life where I feel like I feel like that scene in Andy Griffith with Barney Fife where he's drunk. I'm no good. Hey, everybody, I'm no good.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
keeps rolling over in my mind, and I expect people to believe that about me, and I'm expecting to hear that from people. And God forbid you should ever have a moment where you actually hear that from someone. It's devastating. You were talking about types of imposter syndromes. I like this topic.
I was at least talking about the ones that I can personally relate to, because with the perfectionist, I feel that it can show up in different ways, whether it's in over preparing or feeling like success doesn't count unless it's perfect. Like, I can do something, but if it's not perfect, then it's not like there's a grading scale for me. It's either 0 or 100. There's no in between. That's the way I feel sometimes for myself. With that mirror version, I feel like it says everything must be perfect or you don't belong here. I guess another category or group might be considered the expert, which is like, okay, if I don't know everything, people will find out and I'm not competent. But feeling that you need more training, more proof, more credentials that makes you feel like you can prove to people, okay, I'm an expert.
But that journey is self-defeating, because if you're truly learning from your endeavors to get those credentials, what it does is stretch the horizon in front of you of what can be known, and you realize that you're not humanly capable of knowing it all, so it only heightens or attenuates that feeling of imposter syndrome. Because I got 6 college degrees, I got plans for more, and every degree I add to it, it has not lessened my feeling of I don't belong. It's actually made it worse, because I'm aware of what I don't know.
Well, it's come up in various conversations with me and Jeremy, because I feel there are times where I have nothing to contribute because I don't know anything, and he will be like, okay, go to college. And he's not saying that from a position of he thinks less of me if I don't go. But I then reflect on, okay, why would I spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a degree? Is it to prove something to myself?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But like you just pointed out, you keep going after different degrees and it's not making that situation any better.
Now, granted, I do enjoy learning, and it does make me a very, very unique unicorn, as if I weren't odd enough as it is. It also makes you even more uncomfortable around the average individual, particularly if the average individual is living in an echo chamber and they convince themselves that they're pretty smart. You will find that your toleration level for the average human being decreases, not because they don't have a degree. I'm not talking. No. I'm talking about just being dumb, and there's no excuse to be dumb. But on the flip side, it's also humbling to acknowledge that even the experts out there, they're not experts on broad topics. They're an expert in a particular niche within a subtopic. And I mean, we can see this with doctors. Doctors are professional experts.
Yeah.
But you talk to one doctor who specializes in a unique brain lesion I had it in my own life. I have a pretty rare bone disease. And I just happened 20 years ago to get with a doctor who happened to understand what that is. And then I remember going to talk to other doctors. I never heard of that. What is that? So it being an expert just means that you have focused in on one particular subtopic, and you have much more demand of the data than other people on that particular topic. The problem comes if we start thinking, well, I'm an expert in all of these fields. Mm. And so I don't consider myself an expert at anything at all. I consider myself someone that knows how much of an expert I'm not. It's like okay, I'm aware of all of these topics that I've studied. Okay, I suck at that topic. I suck at that topic. That's all those degrees have done for me. It's like, you do not have what it takes to know this material, because here's what you should be able to know, and here's that little slice of information that I can retain. And so that imposter syndrome is attenuated by the fact that I'm getting older. My memory's not as good as it once was. And so it's like, well, my goodness, I just need to go to Walmart and sign up to be a greeter. Say, welcome to Walmart.
Well, I feel, for me, this category goes beyond just book knowledge. Like, when I first met Najia, I felt this category really kicked in for me.
Oh, yeah, it did. Mine, too. Met her, I'm like, Lord.
It wasn't about her degrees. It wasn't about her career. There was a quality about her that, in that moment for me, was, okay, I wasn't taught this. I don't know this at all. So it's not, again, not about something you're going to necessarily learn in college. It was about, I think, something that you learn in life in general. The exposures, the experiences that you have that teach those things. But I know having her in our life has, I think, made me want to be better in certain areas that prior to that, I would not have even thought to have even tried to achieve that. And so I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about putting ourselves in a situation where we can be exposed to different things, to learn more things, not just in books, not saying that that's bad, but I think that's how we grow as people and individuals, because otherwise the things that I've learned from Najia, I would not have otherwise, I think, been exposed to had she not been in our life.
Talk to me about these other imposter syndrome types, because we listed one or two there, but I'm curious about others.
Yeah. So another one I wrote down, I called it the natural genius. So for me, that's like, okay, if I'm truly good, it should come easy. And I think I see this in Chloe. She has the mindset that if she's good at something, it should be just like that. And she not necessarily have to work for it. And so that has been something I've had to work in trying to teach her. It's still an ongoing process, that it doesn't mean that you're not good if you're working hard at something. She expects that she should just know how to do something. And I think she was struggling this with piano. Like, okay, if I'm good at music, I should be able to just do this. But no, it is something you have to work hard.
Yep.
And I think that mirror says, I'm sorry?
I saw it in a parent of a student I was teaching one time. This little girl had, she was a great student. She was like 7 years old and was making progress. And I say progress, she's coming in every week. She's practicing, and we're doing the songs, 2 or 3 songs a week. We're moving on. And we hadn't been taking lessons that long with her. And the mother looked at me and said, I think we're going to quit lessons. And I was curious because it was going so well. I was so excited every time she came to the studio. And she said, well, she's not learning anything. I said, man, what do you mean? Your child is actually practicing and has progressed quite rapidly since we've started. She said, really? She's not playing anything beautiful. And she's like, she's not playing any Beethoven. She's not playing any Chopin. I mean, this is less than 3 months. And she said, she was like, it's not you. I think you're a great teacher. I think she looked at the little girl, and the girl said, Mom, please don't make me stop lessons. I love them. So if a child is enjoying it, and the mother looked at the child in my studio, right, and she said, But sweetheart, you have no talent. You're no good.
Oh my
And the little
goodness.
girl just dropped her head, and she had tears coming down her cheeks because her mother. She said, "Mommy, I'll practice harder. I promise." No, I don't think you have what it takes. We need to find something else for you to do. Because the mother, yeah, this was 12, 13 years ago at least, and it so rattled me that this little girl had the potential by the time I just looking at the way she was practicing, give me 10 years with this child, and this child's, it's going to be great. But the mother was like, this is not instantaneous. This is too much work. This is, and it so killed me that someone with, there it is. There's a culture. If I name what culture she's from, I think you'd understand the pressure that was coming from that society. Well, you're not good unless you can post a video of your 6-year-old playing a Mozart sonata after 3 months of lessons. And that's how you get recognition in that particular culture. It's like, wow, the younger you are, the faster playing you are, the bigger, the more complicated it is, the better you look. And I saw what was taking place. I was like, my goodness, you're trying to fit in. You're trying to live vicariously through your kid. And your kid's got tears coming out of her eyes because you think that child's no good. So yeah, that one really hits home to me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, another category I wrote down was called the soloist, and I think this one's also a little personal for me at times. This one's like, okay, if I need help, it proves I'm not capable. So you go avoiding asking for help because you got to prove something to yourself. So you're only competent if you can do everything without asking someone to help you. And I do catch myself. And Jeremy, he'll tell me, he's like, you are wearing yourself down. Give me some of this to do. And it sort of goes hand in hand with the perfectionist for me. So I got the soloist here, and then the perfectionist side of me is, okay, I want it done a certain way. So it's really hard for me to let go of it because I want it done a very particular way. But at the same time, I also have in my mind, okay, Jeremy does this, this, and this, so I need to be able to do this and this and this on my own to feel like I'm capable and that I'm worthy.
Well, I'm also contributing enough to the relationship on my own so as not to embarrass the partner or make the partner think, what have I gotten stuck with?
Right.
I know that goes through my thoughts at times.
Well, the last one I wrote down was the superhuman. And this is like a bit of combination of them all in some aspects. If I'm not excelling in every area, I'm failing. And I find myself, I can relate to a lot of these very personally because I will have my responsibilities here at home. I have the podcast, I have parenting, I have being a spouse. And if I'm not excelling in all of these at 100% all the time, and I'm checking everything off my list daily, then I'm failing in this category. I'm not getting this done, and I don't deserve to be here.
My end of the day thought processes are usually very critical and not pleasant. But I had a good day the other day because I got so much done. I did everything on my list I was supposed to do. I knocked it, but I worked. It was a 10-hour day. It was just nonstop. I did my exercises. I practiced piano. I worked on some other music stuff. I did a lot of studying I wanted to get done. I had almost everything on that list knocked off that I wanted, and I was like, okay, I can sit here and play this little game, or I can sit here and watch this movie because I've earned it, you know. And so I have a hard time. I have a hard time with other people who can just relax and do nothing. And so I can't. I'm like, you have to earn that. What did you make enough money today? Did you accomplish something significant so that you can say, okay, I have earned what it means to rest. I've earned what it means to just relax.
Yeah.
I sometimes get humored at the a phrase that some friends told me when I was a teenager. They said, Brandon, you need to learn how to relax. I think they said, loosen up. And
Yeah.
it turns out that they had a little bit of insight into me that I didn't possess. I thought they were just lazy. If I'm like, how many books have you read? How many books have you read recently? What have you been doing?
Yeah.
What you working toward? Oh man, I'm just existing, and my brain doesn't grasp that. I'm already at the age where I'm feeling the time, the clock ticking. There's only so much time left in my life, and how am I gonna get
Yep.
all this done? I'm already there. It's like, oh my goodness, I had so much I wanted to do with music, so much I wanted to do with accounting and business, stuff I wanted to do still with human development, and then we can talk about a whole career in counseling. Got a whole thing I want to do with religion and theology studies. It's like I'm looking. Okay, I'm 43. I can get this done by the time I'm 45. I can get this done by the time I'm 47. I can get this done by the time I'm 50. I mean, I got 2 year time blocks. I'm like, okay, when I get all that down, I'll finally be able to live my life. It's like, oh man, now it's time to die. And
Well, I liked what Sarah, and I hope I pronounced her last name right, Blondin. She said, "Your old wounds will call you back, not to break you, but to ask for your healing." And I sat with that for a little bit because I couldn't help but wonder, okay, this event that I went to that brought up a lot of old stuff for me. It wasn't to break me, but to seek healing for myself. So that prompted me to, okay, how do I go from that to healing? How do I get to that point? And I know we talked on it briefly about the exposing yourself more to the situations that where you can receive that input from people that will override that old script.
yeah,
That
that's great. Yep.
I just have got to get my courage back up because I feel like it took me 10 years to go back to see these women again. So now I've got to get my courage up somehow to do that, embrace that environment again.
Well, we're asking questions, which is what we do on this little talk thing we do. I don't have answers because I am struggling with the same questions. And if I had a silver bullet that I could use to rewrite a lot of scripts, these algorithms that I discovered that are deep inside me, I would. But it's almost like being when I find these deep dark messages about myself that I'm learning from that reflection we talk about in that mirror that never dies.
Yeah.
It is almost like there's a second party down in there. Like there's me on the surface, but there's something that's deep down inside that's just like,
Yeah.
some ugliness there that is just all meshed together. And that goes back to this window pane, window pane number 4 here. Our religious background, quoting the Psalms where David said, search me, O God, and know me, and try me. So this part here of the wounds, not even the wounds I know. What about the wounds you don't know? But they are avenues for this recurring loop of negativity that's just operating there, and you don't even know those wounds are there. You're not even aware of how deep that goes. So that I don't have anything encouraging to add to it except to say that I feel your pain, and I dare say that we're not alone on that. I think most of us in this middle age angst are just we're doing the best we can, keeping our act together, hoping no one looks behind the curtain to see that I really and truly I'm just not as all together as I'd like to, as I'm pretending to be. I
Right.
don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't have a lot of answers for things. But particularly if you got doing being a parent in the midst of all this, I'm not a parent,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can imagine the angst that I would have as a parent because I don't have the answers. I don't have solid direction to tell my child this is what you need to do. I I I,
Well,
I would
it's
feel
funny
I would feel inadequate.
you mentioned that, but I think sometimes our kids, even not maybe not to their knowledge, they can be a teacher to us. Like Chloe, she said, like the other day, this goes back to that superhuman, soloist, perfectionist, imposter syndromes that I deal with. And she was like, so how was your day? I was like, well, baby, it hasn't been great. She's like, why? And I was like, well, I just don't have enough time. I have all this stuff that I'm trying to get done, and I just don't have enough time. And she's like, but you don't have a job. You don't have to go to work. So why can't that stuff just wait till tomorrow? And she's not wrong. I put all this pressure on myself because I'm thinking I've got this to-do list, and I don't allow myself that grace, that flexibility to say it's okay if I push that off to tomorrow.
You gotta do what
So
Joey said. You gotta stretch this out. You gotta
Yeah.
stretch it out, as he said.
I definitely need to do that because I'm like, I'm doing like enough stuff in one day that's really for the whole week. But
Yeah.
Here's another quote. Louise Hay, she said, you've been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. She's a motivational speaker, but I love that because it sounds simple. It's like, when's the last time I told myself, "Oh, great job," without having checked everything off my list? Why can't I approve myself for getting whatever it was done, whether it was little, small? Show yourself that approval for what you were able to get done versus beating yourself up for all the things, whether it's 1, 2, or however many, that you didn't get accomplished.
I don't have that one down pat. I'll let you know when I figure
Oh,
that
I
one
don't
out.
either. I mean, this is all. I come into these episodes sometimes a lot apprehensive because I am being extremely honest about something that I'm personally going through, and it's very vulnerable. And no, I don't have this figured out. I don't have answers. It's a process that I'm working through out loud with you and whoever is listening.
I do like the quote you put by Eckhart Tolle. Now,
Yes.
that guy he's an author, and I read a book. He has a book out there. I think it's called The Power of Now or The Present or something like that. And his idea, he says in that book that there is no future. It doesn't exist yet. The past is gone. So we live either in the future by being anxious about it, or we live in the past because we're filled with regret. And the quote we have here is, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but your thoughts about it. Well, this goes back to my statement about inner peace. Can I develop inner peace that's non-contingent on the environment around me? So that's
When I think it also goes back to a reoccurring theme in a lot of our episodes, which is adjusting
depths
our
of
overall
despair. Welcome to the pits of despair. I'm sorry, keep going.
The reoccurring theme that I've been picking up on, and it's not exactly intentional, but I think we've been emphasizing the overall our mindset, the shift that we have to have within our mindset, and I think this is what he's implying, because the cause of our unhappiness is our mind, what we're thinking about it. So changing that mindset could have a significant impact on the overall situation.
You ever feel like you're a victim of your own mind? That you can't control that?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's one reason I think I end up falling asleep a lot with my AirPods in with something playing on my tablet, just so my mind's not running constantly, where I'm dwelling on whether it's worries or concerns or hypotheticals that may or may not happen, or I have to shut it off. And yeah, I definitely feel like I am my own worst enemy. A lot of times.
Well, this has been a great discussion. We don't have any answers, but I do like talking about it because it hopefully is a canvas for someone else that's struggling with those same questions. Hey, I'm not alone with this.
Well, I think recognizing the fact that an old mirror, such as what we've experienced, is simply just a trigger. It does give us a chance to respond, hopefully, differently next time. Especially now that I've been able to pause, reflect. I know what's causing it. I know what's fictional, what's reality. I can see it, I can name it, and choose how it's going to drive me.
That requires pressing pause on those emotions. And I think it shows that even when we understand the origin of these feelings, they can still hit hard. And
definitely.
Awareness alone isn't just a shield, but it definitely is the first step.
And I think maybe life is good for giving us new rooms, a chance to show up as our real present day selves.
That's a tough call, but that's the challenge, being for real. All right, folks, thanks for joining us on Life, What Is It Good For? We're going to see y'all next time.